While the Phillies offseason is officially underway, the team made a decision yesterday on 8 different players on their roster, and that's going from big names to guys that were in the All-Star game this year to now some fringe guys that we think maybe didn't have a chance to come back, but now after yesterday, there is a very good chance. So last night was the non-tender deadline, meaning any player that is arbitration eligible, the team has to offer them some sort of contract or they can non-tender that player. So last night, the Phillies, they agreed on a contract with Garrett Stubbs for the 2025 season. Brandon Marsh, Alec Bohm, Bryson Stott, Edmundo Sosa, Ranger Suarez, and Jose Ruiz were all tendered contracts. The only person yesterday out of those 8 players that was not offered a contract was Austin Hayes, who we talked about last night. He was a non-tender candidate for the Phillies. It was an unfortunate situation for Hayes. It truly just didn't work out at the time once again. And I will say this, I thought the move at the time for a fringe sort of platoon bat for Marsh was a good move. It wasn't the go all-in move that they needed, and that was really the issue. The move itself for Hayes wasn't bad. It was the fact that there wasn't another one after it. So that was really the issue with Hayes there. But now the Phillies, once again, they have offered contracts to these 5 players, and honestly, there's really not a ton of surprises here. The only one that's really a bit surprising to some people was Garrett Stubbs. I think we sort of know what Garrett Stubbs brings you now. We talked about this last night. He's not the offensive catcher that I think people want as their backup for a guy that can come in maybe once, twice a week and have some pop. That's not Stubbs. What Stubbs is a backup catcher that is popular in the locker room. He knows the pitchers. That is one of the biggest things. There are multiple pitchers on this Phillies staff that pitch better when Garrett Stubbs is out on that field. And that is big to have in a backup catcher. And that truly, to me, is one of the biggest things with a backup catcher. And that's why I've been so adamant on why I want the Phillies to go get a veteran, a guy that's been around the league for a while, right? Last night, we saw them extend Stubbs. By no means does that mean that Garrett Stubbs is going to be the backup catcher next year. Garrett Stubbs, if I had to guess, Garrett Stubbs was offered this contract. He's going to come into camp. The biggest thing with Stubbs is that he has one minor league option remaining, meaning that he can come into camp. He can try and compete for that job. Is there a good chance he gets it after a year like last year and the Phillies knowing that they need more production behind JT, who is not going to catch 120 games anymore? It's just that simple. No. So I think they know right now that Garrett Stubbs is probably not going to be their backup next year. But why I have no problem with Stubbs is because this is the type of contract he's making. He's estimated to make $1 million. And honest to God, these numbers haven't come out yet. These are, once again, just estimates from MLB trade rumors. But I can't imagine Stubbs' contract was even over $1 million last night. He's a small contract. He's always been on a small contract with the Phillies. And I don't think they're going to give a guy a big contract that they don't know 100% is going to be the backup. And once again, there's a very good chance that they use this AAA option for Stubbs. So obviously last night, these are once again not the confirmed numbers, but via MLB trade rumors, these are sort of the estimates that we got. Ranger Suarez, $8.9 million. For Bohm, 8.1. Austin Hayes, that number does not really matter because he got non-tendered. For Bryson Stott, 3.5. For Brandon Marsh, $3 million. For Edmundo Sosa, 2.5. For Jose Ruiz, $1.2 million. And I will say, I think that right now, this 2 best contracts in here is Jose Ruiz and Edmundo Sosa. That is some crazy value that you get for Jose Ruiz for $1.2 million, who gave you 52 games last year with 51 innings and a 3.71 ERA with 52 strikeouts to 17 walks. And then you go over to look at Edmundo Sosa, who, for a guy off the bench and wasn't necessarily supposed to really be out there almost every other day last year, but the team dealt obviously with injuries to Trey, with injuries in the outfield, with injuries everywhere. Sosa was getting moved all around the infield. He was playing second when Bryson Stott was over at short. He was playing third base for a little bit on Bohm's days off. 7 home runs, 31 RBIs, a 313 on base percentage, 64 hits, 7 stolen bases. I mean, he had a 734 OPS. That's around middle of the pack for the team, and his WAR was over 2. So for a guy like Sosa, that is, once again, some pretty crazy value that you get for estimated $2.5 million. But on the flip side of this, I do want to sort of look around the league because this was a move last night. These non-tender moves. There were a few that surprised me, and I think surprised a lot of people. Really, one of them for sure being Kyle Finnegan, who was non-tendered by the Nationals. And it was a big surprise. Yes, so right here, the Nationals non-tendered relief pitcher Kyle Finnegan. Finnegan was a target for the Phillies at the trade deadline. This is a guy that had a really pretty darn good season last year. And for a Nationals team that seems like they're going to try and compete next year. I don't think they think they're going to win the World Series next year. But this Nationals team seems like they have some pieces, right? They have the young core. They have Dylan Cruz. They have CJ Abrams. They have these young guys. They have some bit of a core here. And the fact that they non-tendered a guy like Finnegan, who really gave them a lot last year, was very surprising to me. Along with the Finnegan stuff, we did also see yesterday in an article from Matt Gelb after the Phillies non-tendered Hayes, he said the Phillies, according to multiple major league sources, have made Nick Castellanos available in trade talks. They've shopped numerous players, namely Alec Boehm and Rangers Suarez, to gauge the other club's interest. This was a pretty big tweet yesterday because we've seen from a lot of people that, the Boehm rumors and that sort of stuff. Obviously, the first Boehm rumor really being this Royals one that we saw the other day. But unfortunately, if you did want the Brady Singer for Alec Boehm package, the Reds traded Jonathan India last night, along with Joey Weimer, to the Royals for Brady Singer. So that is basically off the table. But this was big because this is the first time we've really heard Suarez's name in major trade talks. The fact that the Phillies have shopped Suarez, have swapped Boehm, and that's not necessarily saying that they're going to go, right? This isn't saying that Ranger Suarez is gone, Alec Boehm is gone, Nick Castellanos is gone. But it does say that this Phillies team is not messing around. They've made it so obvious that they want change. They don't want the last 3 years to happen again. 2022 was a great season, was an unbelievable run. 2023 ended in failure, and 2024 ended in even more failure. So this team doesn't want that to happen again. They want to be in the hunt. They want to be there, and they know that, maybe you have to switch up this lineup. If that is the case, once again, with Castellanos, Boehm, and Suarez possibly being on the market, this Ranger Suarez thing screams to me that he would be in a Garrett Crochet deal. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And it seems like the Phillies are one of the top dogs for Crochet. It's been noted multiple times that, one, the Phillies checked in and were pretty heavy for him at the trade deadline. They obviously didn't get anything done, but now that it's the offseason, it seems like the Dodgers, the Orioles, the Phillies, those are the three sort of big dogs that have been mentioned for Crochet. So I've seen some trade packages thrown around with a mix of Ranger and Eduardo Tait and Justin Crawford for a guy like Garrett Crochet, who, if you look at the stats, if Garrett Crochet stays on the field, he's nasty. I'll say this right now. There's a really good chance that Garrett Crochet is a top 7 pitcher in the league for the next 5 years. And if the Phillies really wanted to upgrade this rotation, and they didn't necessarily know the future for Ranger, he's obviously owed a full contract after this season, so he will hit unrestricted free agency next year. Would the Phillies try and trade him before his contract year? Would they try and get off of the Ranger thing now? I don't think they're dying to lose Ranger Suarez. They love Ranger. Everybody in this city loves Ranger. But once again, you have to do what is best for your team. And if it's shop Suarez and it's swap Boehm and it's swap Castellanos or even JT Realmuto like we saw the other day, it seems like everything's on the table for the Phillies. So what would you do? If you were Dave Dombrowski, what would you do? Would you shop Boehm? Would you shop Castellanos? Would you swap Suarez? And what do you think about these deals? Because once again, I am loving some of these. I once again think that some of these are absolutely fantastic. If this deal for Edmundo Sosa is true or around that $2.5 million, I think that's a great contract. And I think Jose Ruiz is an even better contract. So once again, my name is Luke Arcaini. This has been Phillies Digest, and we will see you next time.